Hello, and welcome back. Today we are diving into something different that I've been hesitating on sharing on this channel, but I'm going to start sharing more of, which has to do with channeled messages that I'm receiving. And specifically in this video, a message I received from my dog. Her name was Cassie, but when we first adopted her, the name she had was Hope. And when she passed away in October, the evening that it happened, I received really strong messages from her and like this full stream of consciousness coming through. And one of the things she ended with sharing was about how I was going to be bringing a book forward from her called Messages from Hope. And I have been working on this book behind the scenes and connecting to her beautiful soul and bringing through the messages that she's sharing. And although this is kind of out of order because I haven't shared an introduction on it before, I want to share what came through last night specifically, because it just feels like resonant and top of mind, obviously. So I am dog sitting and looking after this sweet little angel here. And what's interesting is that there's been so much going on in the week since I started taking care of her. And as things tend to, operate, everything happens in divine timing. But it's been a lot. The day I first started house sitting her, my grandma passed away, so I've been integrating a lot of intergenerational things and stuff related to the feminine lineage and a lot of feminine wounding and suppression and like all these layers of trauma that have been coming through to be processed. So that's been a lot and very heavy. And then other work things, other situations, just like so many different things going on. And I noticed what was coming to the forefront is that instead of being very much in my heart and like very present in the moment and enjoying the beautiful doggy companion, I was very much in my mind and very much in the stress and the struggle, the frustration about things. And this is where the message begins, because my feeling with messages from Hope is that it is going to obviously be very targeted towards animal owners and animal lovers, because we all have such a deep connection to our animals in that way. And a lot of what Hope is bringing through and what she's sharing about is the deep bond and the spiritual connection between human and pet and human and animal, and the way, there's soul contracts and higher level connections, communication, all these different things. But what was coming through yesterday specifically was very much about the contrast between dogs, which embody such a level of unconditional love and presence in the moment, in this playfulness, this joy, and the contrast to human beings who unfortunately have been very disconnected from unconditional love and playfulness and joy because of the systems and structures that operate on this planet. And instead of being able to just be and like truly live in alignment to our souls, we are from day one put into different boxes, into limitations, into constructs of reality and how things have to work. We are told to be more serious, to stop being so playful, like to be realistic, to get your head out of the clouds. And this imagination, this love, the creativity, the flowing connection that we can experience with people, with animals, with nature is very much taken away and stifled or possibly completely blocked. And it's no wonder that so many human beings are suffering and struggling because our connection to the heart chakra is like completely closed off. So the message from last night had to do with, oh, this is a good one. I'm like, oh, it was like, it hit me hard because it had to do with almost the ways that through my anger and frustration over the past week and the way I was really stuck in like the mental body, um, that I was actually becoming extremely conditional. So this doggy would do something that is like not a big deal, but it would trigger me or it would annoy me. And it brought a lot to the forefront around control issues that I maybe still have to work on and release and yeah, work through. Um, but it was so interesting to see the ways in which the human mind create labels of what is good or bad. And so what Hope started sharing through me, I'm obviously going to contrast because it's not coming through right now, but the message was very much around the ways that the human mind immediately creates a condition based on what it thinks is right or wrong or normal, which is ultimately coming back to its programming. So, the example given for this specific situation is that my dog, Cassie, in my mind, was the most perfect dog, right? She was like everything I ever wanted, and uh, me in dog form in a lot of ways. So, like, I loved the way she reacted and responded. I loved that she was so chill and mostly just slept all the time. There was like so much ease with her. And in my mind, the constructs I created is that, like, that is what makes a good dog. And we can apply this across the board to our relationships with people and the conditions we create around them, right? When someone is bothering you or triggering you, it's because they're not operating how you want them to be, but what makes your perception correct and what makes you right in how someone should show up or what deems them good enough, right, wrong, good, bad, you know? These labels that we put people in and put ourselves in. So I was being explained to about the way that I have attached an idea of what I think is perfect in a dog because of what I experienced with Cassie or Hope. And because of that, this dog that is being itself, but not really matching a lot of the boxes that Cassie had matched, I was now from my mental body, because I wasn't fully in my heart with all the stresses and all the things I was processing, my mental body was now labeling her as bad or like frustrating because she wasn't doing what I wanted or she wasn't operating in the ways that my old dog would have. And it was so eye-opening because I think we all see this a lot with parents and especially previous generations where there is such a strong conditioning. And I get the sense of like a very strong father figure when I talk about this because it's that like stern kind of masculine energy, which can be very controlling and intimidating if you don't match its standards and you don't measure up to what he wants, right? It could be a mother energy as well, it could be both. But the feeling of like when a parent has a construct and they think, this is how my child should behave. And if the child doesn't match that, now they're suddenly labeled as a troublemaker or, you know, this or that, all these different things. When in reality, maybe it's the parent's perception. Maybe the parent is trying to control too much. Maybe they're clinging to an idea or a concept of reality that doesn't always exist and doesn't have to be the ultimate truth. And it's actually in their attachment to it and their need to control it that they create more suffering for themselves. Because now, every single time the child doesn't match that, they're feeling more angry, or they have to discipline, or they're getting more and more worked up and triggered and potentially reactive and more controlling. And what was so ironic as the message was being brought through last night was like the my dog called me out. She was like, you could have been having the most beautiful week ever if you had just let go of your need to control. And if you would have just been like, oh, the dog's doing this now, no big deal. It could have been fine. And I could have returned to my heart. I could have just laughed about it. Like, truly, nothing was like that bad. But my mind was continuing to focus and identify and cling to the stories of the negatives. Okay. And it was the message about how I was being so stubborn that I was actually choosing to stay in my frustration and choosing to continue focusing on it and like clinging to that instead of dropping into my heart and being more present, being more like, it is what it is, and I can control myself here, and I can allow myself to still love my life and love the moment and be here in the day and let the dog have fun doing its thing. Like, just let it be, you know? And I had the opportunity to shift into that, but I wasn't choosing it because my mind is so stubborn and it wanted to continue to prove itself right, that the dog was the problem and not me. Does that make sense? And I think we do that so often in relationships, which is why this message to me was so fascinating, because it does transcend, you know, the contrast of relationships to animals and how every single animal is unique and they all have their own ways of operating and being in the world. And no one way is right, just like no one way is wrong. It's truly just being its own unique expression. And some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but it's just being itself, right? Unbothered by that judgment. But when we look at that as human beings as well, the ways that we can then continue to want to prove that like we are the right one and we know best, and then we try to pull into that story even more and win in a sense, instead of being like, what does it matter? You know, like, what does it matter to prove myself or to prove that they did something wrong, or that they were the one who made the mistake, or they were the one who didn't measure up to my expectations, but my expectations were valid, right? Or to continue to attach to our judgments of these are all the things that are wrong with them, and I don't embody that, so I must be better or right or whatever it is. It's truly a very strong egoic attachment towards this, and the heart doesn't have that. The heart isn't operating from that space. The heart would be like, I am as I am, and they are as they are, and I'm going to love them anyway. And I'm going to choose unconditional love, even if they're doing things that I wouldn't want to do, right? And being able to realize that my personal story of what is right from the mind isn't necessarily always true and isn't necessarily always right for everyone. So I hope something in this was helpful for you and that something will land. And yeah, I'm just excited to start sharing more of these messages. Um, as I said, I'm compiling everything for a book, and we've got some beautiful messages that have already come through from Hope around all these different things. And it's, yeah, it's just really really transformative. So, reminder to stay in your heart and to question where you're maybe attaching or trying to control or trying to stay trapped in your certain labels, your certain constructs, and ask yourself, like, if I'm suffering here, am I choosing it? Because that was like the most ironic part for me last night, was just like, oh, damn, I have chosen to create a week of suffering by going further and further into the rabbit hole of my mind instead of just being like, oh, it's no big deal, right? It could have easily shifted. And again, everything's perfect. So I'm grateful for the lessons. And oh, we could say it was meant to happen so that I could receive this message and bring it through and have the illumination. But yeah, just really noticing that like you can alleviate your own suffering and struggling. And a lot of that does happen the more you return to your heart space. So, beautiful invitation to drop out of your mind and back into your heart and allow yourself to release some of the judgments, labels, expectations towards animals or towards the people in your life right now, because it will truly set you free. So I hope this was helpful. Sending lots of love from my heart to yours, and I will see you on the next video. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you again soon.